Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Tell me a little bit about who you are and how you got into what you do.
My name is Eva Aram,
Mhm.
and I founded a coaching practice called Beyond the 12, which is a leadership coaching practice that helps professionals, business owners, entrepreneurs in long term recovery integrate their recovery world with their leadership skills. We all know that if you're in a leadership position as a parent or a church organization, it doesn't even have to be a business one. You run into certain issues, and when you're in recovery, you've had a transformation and learned a set of skills that help you there, but are you applying them in your business world? I help people go through that. I'm an ICF accredited coach. I've been through many hours of training to get my credential for coaching. I am applying coaching tools specializing in people with recovery.
And what are some of the common things that you see that get in people's way?
The inability to communicate. That is the most typical one. We don't know how to set boundaries. When I'm working with a client, the first thing we talk about is what is causing resentment. And when we're talking about that other person or the situation, it's because the person that I'm talking to either isn't sure how to communicate what their needs are, what their thoughts are, what their feelings are. Instead, they go to a place of being bossy, being angry, letting everyone know that they should be in charge. We work with how to actively listen, how to learn to listen to someone so we can get to what the root of their issue is. Many times we'll make an assumption or we'll interpret a certain behavior and then we'll run with that story in our head and take action, and then it screws everything up. That's one of the big ones, is learning how to communicate. Another one is how to set boundaries. If someone is in recovery, they've often heard you shouldn't say no if you're asked to do something. My personal belief is yes, you can say no. No is a one word sentence. The more that we can put boundaries into place, the better everyone's lives are going to be. Because when we have boundaries, we have clearly laid out our expectations to the other person. And expectation is kind of all stuck up here in our heads, and the other person isn't doing what we want them to be doing, but they might not know it because we haven't communicated to them.
Mhm.
One of the things that I work with people with is having to figure out what your boundaries are. First off, we start talking about what your values are. Most people don't know what their values are. If we aren't living in alignment with our values because we don't know what they are, we can wake up one day and just feel like we don't have direction, we don't have purpose, we aren't sure what we're supposed to be doing next. We work with what are the values, and then we take those values and create some non-negotiables around those values. You are in the health arena. If we think about health, I want to get healthy. That is my value. What am I going to put in place that is a non-negotiable for that value? I might say I'm going to go to the gym 3 times a week, or I'm going to work on increasing my protein and lowering my carbs, or whatever that non-negotiable is. If they go into a situation where they go to a restaurant and they have to make a dietary decision, if it's based on their values, they're going to feel so much better about themselves. When we think about that in a business situation or a leadership situation, what are values? If one of my values is respect, and I'm going into a team meeting and somebody constantly interrupts me, how do I stop that? I leave that meeting feeling so angry, and the thoughts of revenge are going through my head, and what I'm going to say to them, it carries on to home. Then I'm going home, and I had this meeting at 9 o'clock where I got angry. I was angry all day, and I see my family. Guess who's going to get it now? They're going to get it. The dishes weren't
Mhm.
done, or
Mhm.
you didn't do your homework, or I asked you 20 times. It affects everything when we don't set our boundaries and communicate.
It's a
Um,
cascading effect.
it's
Yeah,
often it's not like we feel good about ourselves when we're
right.
barking orders at someone. We carry that around with us. We have resentment on one side and shame on the other side, and we don't function. How is that living in alignment with what recovery is? It's not.
I see people every day who get very, very focused on outcomes, and then
Hmm.
they use that to drive their decision making. But oftentimes it's very weak if you're just focused on outcomes. And I love this idea of focusing on values, because it's not about, I can't eat dessert ever because I want to fit into a bikini. That's not going to be enough to hold
Hmm.
you to it. But if you're like, I am somebody that cares about their health, and being conscious of that is something that's important to me. It's important to me to show up for my family into old age. That's part of my value system. Then those little micro decisions every day become a lot more fulfilling to align with I loved how I was reading your website that you talk about people pleasing, procrastination, and perfection.
Yeah.
I'm wondering how those play out in that misalignment.
All three of those words can be used differently. When I was doing network meetings, I said, I'm looking for the people pleasing, procrastinating perfectionists because that was me. And they tend to go together. They can't really be separated. When I am a perfectionist, I have a certain image of myself that is not very positive. I'm living in a place of low energy. And when I talk about energy, I don't really mean anything woo woo. How am I interacting with people? What am I putting out there? What are people reading from me? And I can remember one time I was having a whole bunch of people to my house, and I was on the floor cleaning the corners as if these people coming to my house are going to be looking at the corners, but I was yelling and snapping at everyone. What happens for me and a lot of the people that I talk to and that I work with, when we are in a perfectionistic mode, we're worried about what other people think. If you are in recovery, that's not in alignment with trusting the process. If I trust the process, if I trust a higher power of some sort, if I'm living in a spiritual manner, whether it's creator of the universe or a big puffy pink cloud, whatever that higher power looks like, the higher power that I am not. If I can trust that what is happening right in front of me is what is supposed to be happening, number one, it makes decision making a lot easier. Number two, I don't have to worry about what the result is going to be because I am just focused on the next 5 minutes. And everything else falls away. And it goes back to what we just talked about with values. If my value is taking a deep breath, looking at what I need to do, seeing that I might be scared of something, whether it's a result or what someone might think about me. I'm also a Brene Brown facilitator, and she has 10 guideposts. And the first one is to cultivate authenticity and to let go of what people think. And that is so hard. Part of the reason I drank and I did drugs was I wanted to be loved. I wanted that void inside of me to be filled, and alcohol and drugs did that for me. Then I get sober and I don't have that. So what do we fill that with? We fill that with work, food, gambling, shopping, porn, or video games, anything that can fill that void, but it never happens because it comes back to trusting in the higher power of your choosing to go, it's going to be okay. That perfectionism can be abated. And when the perfectionism is abated, I tend to not procrastinate. I tend to procrastinate because I want things to be perfect. If you could see my office right now, what you see back there is very different than what is on my desk. It's a mess. And I procrastinate taking care of it because I get so busy with what I'm doing in the moment and what people are going to think that I don't take care of it. And then it leads into the third P, people pleasing.
Yeah.
The perfectionism goes right along with the people pleasing. I don't want you to see my desk because you might think I'm not a very good coach or a good person, or that I'm a mess, or I have judgments because of how I was raised on messes. And here I am living in one which goes against my values. I'm just telling you all of this because this is where I am today. Being able to say, this is where I am today. I feel vulnerable telling you all of this because my desk is a mess, but you don't really care. You don't care. Valerie doesn't care. Anyone I'm on this call with doesn't care and probably can relate to it more than judgy about it. I don't want people to see the ugly underside, that underbelly that we have. Let me be a perfectionist because my imagination, and it is truly a story, tells me that if I'm a perfectionist, you're going to like me more. You're going to love me more. You're going to let me belong. And this is what we're looking for, that sense of belonging. We're biologically made to belong to a group of some sort. If we look at animals running in the wild, the ones that get picked off are the ones on the outside of the herd. The ones that are in the belonging part, in the center of the herd, tend to be more successful in surviving. Those three P's are so difficult when we can identify them, when we have some self-awareness around them. Then we can start to accept them as they are. I can accept that my desk is a mess right now, that sometimes I'm trying to do something in the moment and I can't find a piece that I need because I have to go through papers. I thought I lost a book the other day. I cleaned off my desk and found the book. I'm so glad I didn't buy another one. Then we can take that people pleasing out of the picture because I'm trusting that everything is happening the way it's supposed to.
I was talking to a client about you. They asked how does people pleasing play into procrastination? How do people?
They are all linked in one form or another, but the procrastination, when it comes to people pleasing, I have a friend. They had this 1970s green wallpaper.
Mm.
It was textured. It was like that grassy kind of wallpaper. They
Mhm.
wanted to change it, and they couldn't make a decision because they were worried about what people were going to think of if we take the wallpaper down, what color do we have? So they just left it up. They just left it up and left it up and left it up because they couldn't make a decision because they were worried about what someone else was thinking. And so imagine doing that in your business life. Imagine doing that in your personal life. I can't make this decision because I'm worried someone isn't going to like me, or I'm
Mm.
not going to get the job, or I might not be able to get into this group that I really want to get into. We're carrying that weight around, and it's completely fear based. And so we just procrastinate making any decisions, just like the wallpaper.
Mm.
Eventually, they did 20 years later change the wallpaper and paint the wall, but it was 20 years. Imagine they could have had that done if they just took the risk and did what they wanted to do. That procrastination stopped them because they were worried about what other people were going to think, which is the people pleasing. If I'm worried about what you think, I'm going to first of all, ask 20 people, well, what do you think the wall color should be? What do you think we should do? If I have 20 opinions, which one am I going to pick? It stops me. What kind of
Mhm.
a job should I get? What should I do next? If I'm always worried about what someone else thinks, I don't have to take responsibility or accountability for my own decisions. I can blame Susie or Bob or whoever for the consequences that come from that.
After somebody figures out their whys and figures out what their value system is and what they're operating from, how do they start to implement? Is there a tool they can use to make those decisions? This situation where somebody's constantly interrupting me in this meeting, is this something that I need to say something for?
I have created some scripts
Mhm.
because once you know what your non-negotiables are, then you can set up some boundaries. This is my boundary, something to share with another person in order for it to be a boundary, in order for it to be effective, in order to be clean on our emotions, to be emotionally intelligent. We have to share that boundary with the person who we want to share it with, the person we're getting resentful around. If I've got someone who's interrupting me, I have created a script for people to use. Hey, can I talk to you for a second after the meeting? And then we pull Bob aside and say, I was thinking about the last several sales meetings we've had. I know that you like to share when other people are talking, including myself. And when that happens, I feel like I can't really get my point across because my brain is on a track, and if I get interrupted, then I have to start over, and I don't know how much people are really understanding what I'm trying to say, and I feel like I'm repeating myself a lot. What I would really love is for you to wait until the end of the meeting. I know you're a funny guy and you want to crack jokes, but it's very distracting for me. Keep everything into my I statements, not saying, Bob, you're a jerk, you're a hack, you're trying to do these things on purpose, not to put anything on Bob, but to say very specific Bob behaviors that anybody in the media can see. Bob said this when I said that. Things that are observable behaviors are one of the things we have to use when we're talking about a boundary, because it's very specific and people can get it. If I'm just saying you're a jerk, I don't want you to be a jerk in the meeting. First of all, it's a judgment. Bob's going to get defensive and say, screw you. I'm not going to do anything you ask. And then nothing gets done. Bob doesn't know what you're asking him to change, because being a jerk is a general judgment that says nothing about specific behaviors. If I want to set a boundary, it has to be a specific behavior. I need to be able to talk to that person in a way that they're not going to get defensive. I created a script on how to do that.
I have a lot of clients, their kids might have snacks out all the time. They're teenager kids,
Mhm.
or their husband is quick to go to the drive-through or go get a bite to eat while out, or daughter wants to eat dessert. And I have talked to people about, have a conversation with this person about getting on your team, using the I statements and communicating what their goal is, and then asking that person of, hey, can you help me out a little bit? How do you, and people are really hesitant to have those conversations, even if people. Why is that? Do you see that happen a lot? How do you help somebody navigate having those difficult conversations when it's the last thing that they want to do? How do you convince people to?
Number one, the first thing we do is talk about the pain that they're in from doing it, because we have to get to a point of surrender to change any behavior. When I was getting my master's degree, we read this book called The Awareness Wheel. And this is something when people are watching this, they can just pause and write it
Mhm.
down. But
Mhm.
it starts off with, when you blank specific behavior. When you, I think, because our feelings are based on our thoughts. When you do this, I think whatever the thought is. And I feel, and when we talk about feelings, it's not, I feel like you should be doing this, because that's not a feeling. I feel that this should be, I feel should usually just have one word: sad, angry, tired, hungry, mad. Feelings are just one word. If you say, I feel whatever, based on what that thought is, based on what that person's thing is, then you can say, I would really love it if, because then you're asking, and I love what you said about using those I statements. And then if that doesn't happen, when I see the goldfish on the table every time you have your snack, and I step on them with my bare feet and crumbs go everywhere, I don't like it when you do that, and I feel angry. What I would love for you to do is, when you are finished with your goldfish, if you don't eat all of them, pick up the ones that are on the floor, pick up the ones that are on the table, and put them in the trash. And if you do that, I will give you goldfish whenever you ask for them. So it has to be a tangible, happy result for the other person to do whatever you're asking them to do. The problem is, we get stuck in that fear and we don't want to ask. And even though it's a simple task like picking up the goldfish, doesn't seem like that big a deal. Where is the value? What is the value there that you are either in alignment or not in alignment, or the value that you want to have but don't have, or you have it but you aren't putting it into practice? It goes back to, what are the values? But I have to understand, I don't want to walk around my house with goldfish crumbs, and it drives me crazy. And every time I see him headed towards the goldfish, I just get so angry. I want to scream. That is a bottom that can be hit. But in order for the change to happen, that person has to hit a bottom. The first thing we do is talk about, what is the pain and what level of pain are you in around this person who you want to set the boundary with, because that's the only way to get over the fear. Just like when people come into recovery, they have to hit a bottom. If they aren't willing to do the work, it's because they haven't had a surrender. And in order to surrender, we have to have tried everything over and over again, getting the same result, not having anything different, and finally let go. Okay, I'm going to try something else. And it has to be that way with everything that's scary. Coming into recovery wasn't easy for people either.
Let's say a high bottom. How far are you going to dig? How far are you going to go down? I spent a lot of time before I got sober thinking that it hadn't gotten bad enough yet, but that goal line kept moving further back. Their surrender that they have to come to, how can they get there if they want to be willing, but they aren't willing? How to cross over?
I had a relatively high bottom. And when I wasn't able to look in the mirror, I got sober when I was 18. I wasn't married. I hadn't really lost a family. I hadn't lost a job. All of these things that a lot of other people have in their stories as a bottom. For me, I could not look at myself in the mirror. And I get that point these days with food, when I'm just going to eat what I want to eat. And then I have gained 10 pounds. And I can't go up the stairs without being out of breath. And I feel like my mom. She was a diabetic. She couldn't go anywhere without being out of breath. And I'm just like, oh my God, I'm turning into my mom. I haven't hit a bottom. I don't have diabetes, but I have got to change what I am doing, because my thighs are chafed on the inside. They're just like rubbing every time. I'm starting to get things that are weight related issues. How do I change that? I have to hit a bottom with that. And so I haven't hit a bottom with the doctor. I don't have diabetes. No one's told me to change, but I know for myself, I don't like what is happening. This is where we have to look at those intrinsic motivators. Some people might want to make changes, but maybe they're still okay with themselves. They might walk past a mirror and go, I don't like the way I look, or I wish this situation could be different. Until we have hit a bottom emotionally, we're not going to see much success and change.
Yeah, you can accept yourself for where you're at, but you don't necessarily have to like where you're at or want it to stay the same. That's so important. And that also goes back to the values.
Yes.
Because if you know your values and you can see how that's out of alignment, you might be more motivated to do something about it. What happens when somebody's cup is full? If they're aligned with their values, what are some of the superpowers that unlock? If somebody is successful in blicking these issues and is setting those boundaries and protecting their value system and acting in alignment with those values, what are some of the ways that they can show up in their family, at work, for themselves? How does that start to change things? What are some of the changes that you see?
One of the things you just said was if we're living in alignment with our values, if those things are going okay and we feel like we're where we want to be emotionally and putting that information out there, not even verbally, but just in our energy, this is where we are. If I continue to set a boundary with the same person, then it becomes nagging. I can only say it so many times, and boundaries should really only need to be set one time. The problem is, if I've asked for this boundary to be set and the person keeps crossing it, then I'm the one who has to make a decision about what the relationship is going to be. And
Mm,
sometimes I have to end this relationship. I have to take a break from this relationship. I have to cut back on this relationship. I have to go from being super close and sharing personal information with this person to just being superficial with this person. And that is a grief process. We fear emotional pain. And when we fear that emotional pain, it will stop us from doing the things we need to do. When we're living in alignment, how that looks is we go somewhere and we don't always have to be louder than the other person. Our
mm,
opinion can be heard. We can listen to someone and shake our head. I was talking to my brother the other day and he said, I know you told me this several years ago and I never really thought about it, but you said, I can say, you may be right. That doesn't mean I'm wrong, but it allows that other person to be right too. And we don't fight. And I started using it and it works. And I'm like, wow, first of all, my brother actually listened to me. And second, he's actually putting some things in place that I've learned years ago. And it really does work. If I can listen to somebody go, oh yeah, that doesn't mean I agree with them. It means I'm hearing them. And the greatest gift that we can give to someone is being heard.
mhm.
When I was married, the fights were over, no, you're not listening to me. Well, he might have been listening, but he wasn't hearing what I was saying. That is what it looks like. I can hear another person and I can go home after a potluck in the neighborhood or a business meeting or a recovery group and feel okay with myself and go to sleep at night going, my day was awesome. I might have been around someone I didn't like or I didn't agree with, and I didn't get into a fight with them. I'm not carrying a resentment around. They
Yeah.
can do their thing and be okay with it. That's what it looks like when we're living in alignment with our values.
I had a sponsor who used to tell me in every relationship, we have two options. We can change the nature of the relationship or we can accept the conditions. I can accept somebody for who they are, or I can change the nature of the relationship. And I've
Mhm.
used both of those options.
You can accept this person is who they are. They're never going to change. And I have to find another group of friends. That's work and it's scary. We will stop because we're in a place of fear, which
Mhm,
takes us back again to trusting the process, trusting that what is coming up in front of me right now in this minute is what I need to be doing. I'm
mhm.
supposed to be doing lives. I don't like doing lives. I don't want to do lives. I did one yesterday. It was a very short one. I don't want to be doing this, but I know that this is the best way to get my message out there because I can write, but how many times do people sit down to read a 3-minute article? So I've procrastinated for a month. I don't want to do it. And I make commitments and I break them and I feel terrible. Oh my God, I said I was going to do it. And I'm meeting with my coach tomorrow. I better do it 15 minutes before the call with my coach. I'm scared, so I'm going to procrastinate. I'm scared of what people think. I'm going to people please them. I'm scared of how this might turn out. So I'm going to be a perfectionist with it. And none of those things open the lines of communication with another person. We want to be heard. We want to be connected.
In life, especially if you're changing things, it's messy. It doesn't look good. The point from no, or the point from don't know to no, is like a scribble. I remember the first day I was in a year-long personal training certification. The first day they were calling on us, asking us questions. We would raise our hand, and I'm a front row student, and I would raise my hand and try to answer everything.
Uh,
Everything, nope, that's wrong. Nope, that's wrong. I went back home and I called my friend and I was like, man, I just feel like I should have known more. And she was like, oh, so you're in school to learn and you're upset because
yeah.
you don't know the things that they are going to teach you.
Uh-huh.
And I was like, well, when you put it like that, we just want to be perfect. I have a lot of clients that I'll give them form technique and they'll be like, it doesn't feel good to not do things. You want to get an A+ all the time. But this is how we get better.
People who are perfectionists, my chiropractor gave me some bands to use to help deal with some hip stuff. Unless I can get the perfect time and have the perfect environment set up. Oh, my hardwood floors are cold, so let me go over here and do it on the carpet. Oh, I don't have time. Guess what? My hip still hurts because of the perfectionism, which leads to the procrastination. And procrastination, people don't purposely procrastinate. They're just doing it as a part of their thing. And then all of a sudden it's, oh my God, I've waited 5 hours to do this when it could have been done and over by now. But we don't intentionally procrastinate. We're intentionally doing the behavior, but our goal is not to procrastinate and put it off. That's just what's happening because of things that are going on inside of us.
Do you think people use people pleasing and perfectionism as an excuse to procrastinate?
For me, there are so many things that I don't know I'm doing until I've already done them. With perfectionism and procrastinate, all of them, I don't know I am being a perfectionist until through the situation and go, oh my God, look what I was doing. I don't know I was procrastinating while I'm sitting on my couch eating a bowl of ice cream, watching a show, and then, oh, let me just watch one more. I don't say I'm procrastinating. It doesn't occur to me that's what I'm doing. Sometimes it does. I'll tell you one of my tells. If I get on Candy Crush, I'm procrastinating because I love Candy Crush. And then I have 5 lives. And when I get done, I'll click and ask for more lives. And then I'll be, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm procrastinating. It's not when I initially do it, except now I know as soon as I hit that Candy Crush button, what am I avoiding? It's a self-awareness. It doesn't just come overnight. Self-awareness is a practice. So if I'm going to think, I'm going to start focusing on these behaviors. This is what I do when I procrastinate. I play Candy Crush. I'll watch TV. I will do laundry. Then I have a list that I wasn't aware of before because I was just looking at, oh my God, I didn't get this done and now I have to rush. Self-awareness is the first step in the process. Write down, what are the things that I do when I procrastinate? And then if it's not really a laundry day, but I'm looking at cleaning up the house because there's something else I don't want to do. If I know cleaning is one of my things on my list, then I need to go, wait, what am I avoiding? Then I can take a look at why am I avoiding? What is stopping me from doing it? I don't want to do those lives. Let me get Restream and let me get the perfect environment and let me do this rather than actually just get on the stupid camera and do what I need to do. What if people don't like me? People do like me. I don't even know what I'm talking about. I have a story that I have to say, this is not true. It is just my imagination. It is just a story. It is a whole process that takes time. People don't have 11 years sober at day 1. They have to get to 11 years sober, and there are steps they have to take. It's a process. I procrastinate. Let's take a look at what that looks like. What are those behaviors? When I have my list of what those behaviors are, when I do, and oh, wait, this is one of those behaviors I wrote on my procrastination list. Then we can take a look at, well, what am I avoiding? What am I trying to not do? And then why? Because it feels uncomfortable, because I'm worried about what people are going to think, which goes back to the people pleasing, which goes back to the perfectionism.
This has been great. Where can people find you? If people want to know more, I feel like there's so much more juice left in this to squeeze.
My website is www.beyondthe12, the number 12, not written out, .com. And if you go to that website, take my expert integrity quiz to see if you're walking the talk. It's for business people, but anyone can take this quiz, and then you will receive a result of either being a gold medal walker, are you walking the talk, a silver medal, or a bronze medal walker. It'll give you some specific tips on that sheet on what to do. And then you'll get entered into my email list. I'm putting out month-long challenges and free workshops.
I've enjoyed this. It's been fun. I appreciate it.
I appreciate you
Yeah.
having me on. It's
Yeah.
been great.